Yes, it can even happen to a major mint. Silver stolen. This is a big deal. Let's discuss what happened and how it happened as we explore. You can never be too careful with regards to packages going in the mail, even to a major mint, such as the Royal Canadian Mint. Of course, whenever we order precious metals, that is a problem as well for many of us. Now, I've not been the victim of theft for silver that has been shipped to me or any precious metals, but I know some of you have, and it's a big deal whenever you see items lost in the mail. Sometimes, and according to the fine print, insurance will not cover theft. But other times it's watched very carefully, and of course, inconspicuous packaging makes it much more difficult. And of course, if it's packed well so it doesn't shake around, that's good too. But this is a shipment that was going straight to the Royal Canadian Mint. You would think this would be a little bit more secure. There's still some questions about this story, but we're going to cover this from CanadianCoinNews.com. And this is a lot of silver stolen, over 3,200 ounces of silver. But rest assured, when you buy from a good, reputable bullion dealer like Summit Metals, and they're going to make sure that the silver gets to you as safely as possible, for sure. And of course, you can pay a little extra for that extra goodness of insurance and the like to make sure. But nonetheless, Summit Metals, they deal with FedEx, and they highly recommend that. But they've got some good products there, excellent customer service, and they get it out to you very, very quickly. So let's talk about this situation, because this is an unusual story here. A major theft has been reported involving more than 3,200 ounces of silver stolen from a Day and Ross shipment destined for the Royal Canadian Mint. Now, for those of you who are Canadians, you may know what Day and Ross is. I have no idea, no clue what that is. I assume that's a company, a shipper, maybe. I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with it. Usually here we have DHS, we've got FedEx, UPS, or the Postal Service. According to Coin Canada of London, Ontario, the missing shipment was last accounted for on Monday, August the 11th, and contained an estimated 3,212.5 ounces of silver across a range of bullion products. We're going to get into what those are in a moment, an example of which some of them you see here. But nonetheless, you're probably wondering, well, what's the 0.5 ounces? Well, I'll tell you about that here later as well. The stolen items include both bullion bars and collectible coins. Of course, collectible is a very, very strong term here, because essentially it is just bullion. I'm going to talk a little bit about why some of these coins are being sold back to the Royal Canadian Mint. But here is a list of the following. They had 7 100-ounce Royal Canadian Mint bars, and if you've seen those, they're cast bars. This is a 10-ounce pressed bar. This is one of the most attractive, I think, bullion bars that I've seen from a major mint, from a sovereign mint out there. It's 10 ounces, comes wrapped in this plastic. I only have one of these. Part of me would like to get more. I keep it wrapped in this plastic just to protect it, but obviously it makes it difficult for showing here on camera. But I've got several of those wider press bars from different manufacturers. But the Royal Canadian Mint does a great job. If you don't have one of those, they're very nice, and they're 4/9 fine silver too. The Royal Canadian Mint is top notch when it comes to the kind of silver they provide as far as the purity is concerned. They're one of the first mints to be able to provide that. It's pretty amazing. And then we had a 100-ounce JBR bar. You may have seen those as well, too. I think those are cast bars as well. And then 100-ounce Engelhard bar. Now, I didn't pull that out to show you, take up kind of the whole screen, but you know what those look like. They can either be the extruded bars, extracted, pressed, or the cast bars. Then 3 100-ounce Johnson Matthey bars. It doesn't say whether those things are poured or struck bars, because they make both of those. And then 2 50-ounce Johnson Matthey bars, and same situation there. Then you had 1,375 silver maple leaves. That's right. But these were in Now, there were some like this, but not very many. Just the regular maple leaves here. And of course, those that were minted after 2017 utilized what is known as mint shield technology that all but eliminated milk spotting because the maple leaves were horrible for milk spotting. And thankfully, this piece here from 1990 does not have any milk spots on it. And this is an example of those earlier maple leaves that came in this mylar packaging. And they came in sheets. You could buy them in sheets, not necessarily tubes. And they did away with that sometime later. I think around 2000, maybe 2001, I think, is when they got rid of the mylar sheets and they just went straight to tubes. But to be able to get them like this in the packaging is kind of cool. It's not uncommon to find these things, but they have the RCM logo there for Royal Canadian Mint. And the stamping there on it is really, really cool. So it's just nice to have this as something that is so old from 1990, but like it's brand new because it's not been touched by human hands since it left the mint. And also have here these Lady of Liberty bars by Pam Suisse and around as well. Just love this design. Just thought I'd show that as well too. Some people may ask about those. That I got from Costco at a pretty good price. First time I've ever bought from Costco, but nonetheless, 1,375 of those maple leaves. Then we had 196 of the 2-ounce Kraken coins. That's right. And these would be considered collectible coins, but that's a very, very strong term because these were produced, obviously, it's just a bullion coin with a different design, really, essentially. And a lot of these were sold much like the final offering here, and that is 97 1.5-ounce polar bear coins. And the polar bear coins came out in 2013. I remember they were minted exclusively for one of those dealers that advertise on TV. Never buy from a dealer who advertises on TV or magazine. For the most part, there are some exceptions. But usually when they do that, usually there's some they're very, very expensive and they're high pressure and they have kind of, I don't know, questionable ethics in the terms of marketing and the like. And these polar bear coins were advertised on TV and they produced a slew of them. And people lost their shirt on those. I was able to find some in the secondary market outside of that because they ended up going to some dealers after the fact, after they went to the exclusive to this one company, which I absolutely loathe this company. I'll give you a hint of what the name is. The last name is Crapital. You say that word, Crapital. You can probably guess what the first name is, but yes, indeed. But nonetheless, so those things came back en masse to a lot of the dealers and the like. And it sounds like this went to a dealer, Coin Canada of London, Ontario, who's sending this stuff to be refined and sold back to the Royal Canadian Mint to produce other coins and bars. So there's probably all this stuff is going to be melted back down anyway, further refined down to the purity and set back in to create blanks for other bars and coins, or refined in some way. So those Kraken coins, they will never be produced again. So, not that it's going to be worth a whole lot, but 196 it's a good number of these. I don't know how many millions of these they produce. Probably not millions, but probably maybe a couple 100,000 of them at the least. And so that's 196 that will probably, it's stolen now. They're not going to be melted now. They're stolen. So who knows where they're at. So in total, the loss represents a significant amount of silver bullion and numismatic items, making the shipment highly recognizable if it surfaces in the secondary market, unless the criminal melts it down, which they'd be wise to do it. And of course, they could sell it off by piecemeal, individual places. Of course, the bars should have numbers, should have serial numbers on them. So that is one other way to track it. And more likely, if it came from a pretty large dealer, which again, I don't know, Coin Canada of on London, Ontario. I'm not familiar with how big they are, but probably they did document the serial numbers and other distinguishing features, if there were any, on any of the products. So that's good. Dealers and collectors are being urged to remain alert for any combination of these items that may appear at shops, shows, or through private sales. Coin Canada is asking that anyone with information to contact them. And, I don't blame them. It is interesting, fascinating how this can be done, because usually these big dealers or even small dealers, if they're sending to a mint, they're going to make sure that they do it right, package it right, make it inconspicuous, add insurance and all this stuff. But somehow it got stolen in transit, or maybe it was stolen right under the nose in shipping right there at the Royal Canadian Mint. You never know. Likely there's probably a lot of cameras in the intake of these products, though, so that's probably not likely. But just a fascinating story. We'll see what happens. This video will be logged under a playlist called Precious Metal Crimes. I like to do all sorts of videos about different topics with relation to precious metals, and that includes crimes as well. So this will go there. You can check out some of the other videos I posted in that playlist as well. And if you are new here, I hope you will consider subscribing and pressing the notifications bell down there so that you can be apprised of the latest video that makes its way across your device. So with that being said, I'd like to extend a multitude of gratitude to each and every one of you for taking the time to watch, and to encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.